Adam, what are some instances where you'd want to bring in an outside investigator into an employment?
So this issue's actually come up recently with some clients, and we've done it many times throughout the years. The scenario where you want to bring in someone from the outside and not, let's say, have someone internally investigate a workplace dispute is where you begin to sense the potential for escalation. And I think that takes someone like me to sense that this is something that could be escalated to the level of like a lawsuit, and you want to make sure that this investigation is done by a third party independent person with no bias, no connection to the company, so that that person can review the workplace dispute and determine whether or not there's a violation of one or more company policies, and not really have the bias that could be inferred if that investigation was done by someone internally. So typical scenarios where you may bring in an outside investigator is like a workplace harassment type claim, maybe like a sexual harassment or a sexual assault type issue. Um, Potentially, you can bring in an investigator in a race discrimination, or one where there's like a disparate treatment or disparate impact, meaning where there's commonality among, let's say, people that have been laid off or let go. Let's say they all share the same characteristic. Maybe you bring in an investigator to just examine that and to see whether discrimination was an issue there. So really, to answer your question, Justin, the instances when you would bring it in is if you're sensing that there could be a reason for a potential lawsuit, and you want to make sure that the investigation is done by an independent third party, that's when you want to bring in an investigator.
So it's not really a legal proceeding. It's really just so that you can do an investigation, but not have it be management. So you're not further disrupting the workplace. Is that the idea?
Well, the primary idea of it is for someone independent of the organization to review the matter and to determine whether there was a violation. Because if someone internally is reviewing it, then the feeling or the thought could be that they're going to side with the company, right? They're going to find in favor of the company, whereas an outside investigator may not necessarily do that because they're hired to do a job. They're hired to investigate the matter to see whether there's a violation, and whatever the results are, that's what they are.
If they find, like, say the results reveal that there was some sort of violation, what happens then?
Well, then I go back with the company representatives, and we look to see what the investigation resulted in, and then we begin to implement potential remedial measures, including potentially terminating the employee that was accused of harassment or discrimination, or potentially suspension if it didn't rise to that level. We're going to evaluate all options, because there is also the consideration of the rights of the accused too. So, you definitely want to weigh that into the balance when you're deciding, the next steps to take in response to an investigation.
Right. So you don't accidentally trigger claims from the other party. So you have an independent, somebody come in and do an investigation, and then you look at that, you make a decision based on that. And then the idea is that if somebody brings a claim, you can say, look, we did a full investigation. Here's the results. Like, what do you want?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm happy you brought that up, Justin, because, the accused, everybody is so quick to just say, let's just terminate the accused, right? But the reality is anybody can say anything. Anybody can make a complaint. And that's why it's so important to properly investigate an allegation or complaint before deciding what to do, and not just immediately,
Yeah.
reacting, because then you may be inclined to just blame the accused, but that's just not fair, and that's not the way it should be.